have a signal here. Make sure we have a transmission. Notifications going out. There we go. We got something. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on the face of this plane, under the firmament. On this day which the Lord hath made, may we rejoice and be glad in it. This is your host, Joe Imbriano, the Fullerton Informer, coming to you live from the overcast streets of Orange County, California. Today is Monday, May 13th, 2024. My contact information is P.O. Box 4121, Fullerton, California, 92834. And on the web at thefullertoninformer.com, the big website that, it's pretty much covered every continent on the face of this earth, even the ones beyond the ice wall, folks. That's right. Okay, so without any further ado, I want to talk to you about this Northern Lights spectacle that we're getting right now. And I want to talk about the sun. And I want to talk to you about the Carrington event. I want to talk to you about plasma. I want to talk to you about how this fusion nonsense of the sun is a bunch of crap. But back in the summer of 1859, September 1st, I believe, there was an amazing event. And to take you back to that time in history, we really didn't have a lot of electricity running things, with the exception of maybe telegraph service that spanned the land masses. I mean, there were electrical appliances and electric cars on the continents beyond the ice wall at that time, but not here. So there was this alleged phenomenon, and I say alleged phenomenon only because I'm not doubting it took place. What I'm questioning is what the reason for it was. But they said that it was a massive solar flare from the sun, and that the sun gave off this massive energy release that caused all the electronics, like at the time, the telegraph was pretty much the only electronic device there was going in the known world that is surrounded by the ice wall, to melt. Literally, it smoked them, okay? So there was a tremendous amount of energy that was allegedly released from the gas ball of the sun, 95 million miles away. Whatever nonsensical figure they give us about the sun, right? Now, I want to make a point that's extremely important here. The sun and the moon are the same size and the same distance from us. The sun is a lens, ladies and gentlemen. It is not a gas ball, okay? It is not some burning a fusion machine that's 1 billion miles away or 1 million miles away or whatever they're telling us. It's not what it is. The Carrington event was a result not of the sun's solar flare activity, but rather a test of electromagnetic weaponry, a type of Tesla technology at the time. Now, I don't know how many of you have ever been to France. I personally have never set foot in France, but I will tell you that there's this thing in France that everybody knows about. It's called the Eiffel Tower, and it is just a massive, massive structure. It is so out of place and makes no sense as to why it was put there, other than it being some sort of a weapon, okay? And you could tell that it was built on top of some of the old world architecture. They do what they can to try to hide what that thing is built on top of or connected to. But, you know, the Eiffel Tower was erected and installed and probably turned on right about the time of this Spanish flu outbreak that they alleged was caused by a virus that was, you know, passed around by fleas, I guess. I don't know, but or coughing, or, you know, they had an event in 1918, and they blamed it on some sort of pathogen, which very well could have been an electromagnetic event. But my point is they're getting ready to do it again. And this is not a oops, I did it again Britney Spears song, folks. This is actually, they're going to do it again. You know, they have these Tesla antenna farms in China, in Ukraine, in Alaska. In the United States, they call the billion-watt Tesla antenna farm the HARP, the high altitude auroral research project, right? They got this billion-watt antenna farm up in I think it's Gakona, Alaska. And do you know what a billion watts can do? Now that's, of course, you know, where this thing's at is very close to the magnetic north, the center of the Earth, right? You know, Mount Nebu, you know, that big magnetic mountain that doesn't exist, right? The one they don't tell us about, right? That's why everything points north on a compass. Because there's a massive magnetic mountain at the North Pole. Of course, they don't want you to know about that. They want you to think Santa Claus lives there, right? Oh, yeah, Santa Claus lives at the North Pole. Never mind this massive magnetic mountain that exists there. And so it's off limits, and, you know, there's all kinds of things in the northern regions that we don't know about because we're not allowed to go there. But there's a massive amount of energy harvesting that can take place when you're dealing with massive fields of magnetism. And, you know, they've built these antenna farms all over the world. You know, it wouldn't surprise me if, you know, they blew out the reactor in Chernobyl just to get that woodpecker system off limits to the public. Have you seen that gigantic antenna that is erected near Chernobyl? Look up the Soviet woodpecker apparatus, right? Look at the size of this thing, right? And it's off limits now because of the reactor meltdown. Well, you know, that whole thing is a whole nother discussion. You know, it's almost like every one of these things was intentional, you know? I mean, there are no accidents, in my opinion, folks. So this Carrington event that took place back then, and, you know, the Tunguska event, I think that was around 1900, there was this massive blast that took place somewhere up in Siberia, and it leveled the forest for like 100 miles around it, like threw the trees down like toothpicks, right? And there's a big blast crater, and there's like no debris in it. You know, they don't know what caused it. They say it was a meteor. Folks, it was another test. They've been playing with this weaponized technology for a long time, okay? And what they do is they're just fine-tuning it, and they're getting ready for some sort, I think, of event where they're going to play games with the electronics and the grid, okay? I don't know whether they're going to blame it on aliens or they're going to blame it on, you know, terrorists. You know, I don't know what they're going to do. You know, all I know is they're warming up the equipment right now. This Northern Lights nonsense, I mean, folks, you should not be able to see the Northern Lights in the South unless, of course, they're cranking it up. Now, the Carrington event was very interesting because in 1859, there were a lot of things that were in existence technologically speaking, that a lot of people are not aware of. There were some tremendous inventions that had been around, and there were some very incredible advances in magnetism and, I mean, for crying out loud, even levitation technology back then. It's unbelievable, the stuff that was hidden from us. But when you look at the architecture from the era, and everything had antennas on it, and everything was made out of quartz and crystal and stone, and you know, these piezoelectric compounds that are highly conductive and have the ability to resonate and give off beneficial energy. I mean, there was energy harvesting technology all over the earth, on every continent. Everything had antennas on it, and everything was designed almost like capacitors. It's unbelievable when you look back, and when you look at these things at face value, instead of looking at it like primitive, look at it for what it was. But the Carrington event, I believe, was an intentional test of a technology. And what I can tell you right now is that we're going through a period, I think, where they're going to pull another event off. Okay? They tell us that these things take place every 100 to 150 years. Now, I don't know how they know this because I don't know, you know, if there were technologies in like 1700 or 1750 that would have been smoked by a solar flare. I mean, most people back then were, you know, having a cup of tea in front of the fireplace at night. The stars were beautiful, the firmament, the host of heaven was visible to everyone that went outside. The Carrington event, a contrived event, had nothing to do with the sun, folks. It had to do with the magnetic field of the earth and the energy of the magnetic field of the earth being harnessed and channeled and weaponized, I believe. Now, the Carrington event in September of 1859 literally made it possible for people to read newspapers all over the northern hemisphere at midnight. Like, it lasted for days, folks. It was like there was an illumination of the sky that lasted for days. And it disrupted all the telegraph technology and burned up a lot of the equipment. You know, folks, there's a tremendous amount of electricity in the atmosphere. There's a tremendous amount of energy in the ether, if you will. And it is widely known. And all you have to do is look at a lightning bolt. When you look at the dielectric loss of air right in front of you, literally, that much electricity. You know, have you ever seen a transformer blow up? The blue light that comes off of it? Yeah, that's the air molecules being broken down by the energy. There's so much energy that's available to us that they're hiding. Look, Tesla at the turn of the century, 125 years ago, had wireless light bulbs, okay? And he was harvesting massive amounts of electricity right out of the air, folks. Look up Nikola Tesla, look at his inventions, look at the things this guy built. At the time that, you know, I am just he is probably the most fascinating human being that ever lived, in my opinion. Now, the things this guy did, you know, I don't know whether maybe he was just a front man, I don't know, but what he was able to accomplish and build and research and study was incredible. And it's been buried and hidden from us. Now, the people in charge of stuff, they're still using that technology. So this Carrington event at the time, where they had this massive electronics meltdown in 1859, September 1859, lit up the skies, lit up the night skies. Now, I can tell you right now, they've got that same technology available to them that they did back then, all right? Except now they're probably a little bit better at honing it and fine-tuning it, okay? Back then, they were dealing with advanced technology that they still have access to, but now they've got the power of supercomputers to basically fine-tune it and direct it. And so we're getting prepped, I believe, for some sort of event that is going to be disrupting electronics, communication, the tracking systems. Yeah, your cell phones, folks, the internet, the electrical grid. They're going to pull some sort of a game. And whether they blame it on the chupacabra aliens that George Norrie talks about every night. And by the way, I am so sick and tired of all this satanic trash on this coast to coast thing every night. George Norrie, he hosts these people that talk to the dead, these people that conjure spirits. He hosts these people that ascribe to the premillennial dispensationalist eschatological interpretation of the weaponized version of the Schofield Reference Bible. He has all kinds of people on his show, even some gal that fills in once in a while that I went to high school with. I cannot believe my ears when I think of how this poor gal has just gone off the deep end from her Christian upbringing into the occult. It's disgusting. But the reason I listen to the garbage for like 10, 15 minutes a night is I just want to see what these clowns are up to, because this is the projection system they use to grease the skids, to oil the gears, to prep the turf, to wash down and wet the gravel and get the field ready for their game they're going to play. All right? Why I listen to it occasionally and drop in there just to see what they're feeding. And they're getting ready for some sort of alien event. They're getting ready for some sort of event that's going to involve something very fascinating and scary at the same time. The sun is not a gas ball a billion miles away. The sun is actually a lens, folks, okay? I know. Oh, I'm in front of a car that says USC Trojans. Like, these guys are funny. They go to SC and they think they just got to wear it like a badge of honor. I don't have no UCI alumni in the back of my beat up car. I mean, I went to school, but it's not a badge of honor. It's just a symptom of brainwashing, folks. I mean, when I look back at all the stuff they jammed into my head, and the Schrodinger equation, and the quadratic formula, the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, and the Van der Waals coefficient, and all this chemistry and physical chemistry and all this stuff they rammed into my head. Folks, it's all theoretical. And you can do anything on a chalkboard. You can do anything on a piece of paper that you want. That's what they do. But the only thing you can trust or believe is what you see with your own eyes. And I want to tell you something right now, folks. The sun ain't no gas ball, okay? And the sun, ain't a billion miles away. The sun and the moon are the same size. They're the same distance from us. And you know what? It would not surprise me if there is another entity floating around within the firmament that is in operation that we can't see. A black sun, if you will. There's a lot of things we haven't been told, folks, but I will tell you this, okay? Everything you've been told is a lie. Everything you've been taught is a lie. Everything they're teaching your children in school is a lie. And it's extremely important that they put up a fence around these schools to lock your children in and pass laws to make you dump your children off, and make sure that they fund the living crap out of these education systems to make sure they never run out of money, so they can keep the scam going, so they can run this factory farm called civilization the way they want it, so no one gets out of line. And if they do, they will have all the trained personnel and inventions to keep us in line. And that's what the system is all about, folks. It's all about the command and control top-down model, folks. There is no way. You know, I had this globe in my car. I was going to use it this morning. But I think what I'd like to do, instead of, using the globe, what I'd like to do is maybe take like a basketball and, I don't know, maybe take a basketball and, I don't know, maybe tape a mouse to it and then dump a bunch of water on it and spin it around 1,000 miles an hour and chuck it up in the air and watch it hurl, and see how long the water in the mouse stays on the thing, right? Seriously, this is what your children are awake at 2 a.m. learning. I mean, even the historical account of the Carrington event. I mean, think about it, folks. Everything they've told us is a lie. Everything. The sun is a lens, folks. And, if you don't believe in the light of the world, I'll be honest with you, you got a problem because you're in darkness and maybe you like your darkness. I don't know. But I might as well put in a plug for the main sponsor of this channel, Jesus Christ, the production assistant, the producer, the screenwriter, the editor, the content creator, the chief principal scientist, the chief researcher, and, of course, the executive producer, Jesus Christ, of this show. And the co-producer is the Holy Spirit, okay? And so with that being said, and those credits being given to those that are involved in this work, the sun and the moon, folks, the moon is probably more than likely plasma, okay? And you know what's amazing? I'll tell you what's amazing is they can't hide. The reason why they try so hard to hide everything and they have to build these lies so let me back up. It's no mystery that I enjoy books and collecting books, and everything from high school yearbooks to anything, any printed document I am fascinated with pictures or without. I don't care what publishing house it came from, because you can judge a book by its cover. You can tell if it's true or not by who wrote it. And you look at the names. Come on. But they have, for a very long time, been very consistent in their brainwashing. And there's a reason for that. It's because they have several narratives that are extremely important. They make us believe we're on a spinning ball so they can hide God. You see, we're in a closed system. The Earth is a plane. I don't know how far out it extends, but it goes far beyond the ice wall. And there are many continents beyond the ice wall that they're not telling us about. I firmly believe that. And there have been accounts, either in old maps or even first-hand accounts of people that have managed to get through the ice wall and come back. You don't have to believe me about that, folks. Do your research. So they're hiding God. They're hiding the one who created all this by saying that we evolved from a bunch of coalescing amino acids and lightning bolts and rocks and gases and turned into caterpillars that turn into butterflies, right? I mean, unbelievable, right? This egg can be laid on the leaf of a milkweed plant and it turns into this spiderweb looking cocoon thing, and then out of it comes this amazing caterpillar, right? And butterfly. I mean, come on, folks. I mean, this is, you gotta be kidding me, right? That came into being, that kind of engineering, the chrysalis transformation into a butterfly with the incredible patterns and powder on the wings and the antenna and the eyeballs and the ovipositor and everything else. I mean, folks, but they make it so that God doesn't exist, so that we're afraid to die, so that we'll be good slaves and we'll do what we're told and we'll obey and we won't rebel. That's number one. The hiding of God is tantamount, so that we're always in fear and we're subject to the bondage of the fear of death, which Jesus Christ himself came to end. And he did one heck of a job of doing that, folks, because he proved that there is life after death and he conquered death. Okay? He walked out of the tomb. Now, the second thing they're doing with this globe earth nonsense is they're hiding all the water under the ground. there is a massive amount of water. When the firmament was broken open, there's a big tear in the heavens, and they like to call it the Milky Way, right? But the Milky Way is really a tear in the firmament, and that's where the water came in during the flood, okay? And all that water that hit the earth was probably 10 to 12,000 feet deep. The whole earth had about 10,000 feet of water on it, fresh water at that, and it's all still under the ground. I won't go into what's under the ground, but they got submarines that can go from Boston to Bali, okay? Don't kid yourself, folks. And I'm talking about going under the landmass. And the reason why we have tides isn't because the moon is exerting a gravitational force on the oceans, because the land masses are going up and down on the water based on an interaction between the sun and the moon, not from the moon's gravitational force. Because there is no such thing as gravity, folks. It's density. Density is everything, okay? All right, and by the way, you know, my car's a piece of junk, and I had to vacuum it the other day, and all the stuff that was on the ground got sucked into that vacuum. And if space is a vacuum, how do we got air to breathe? I mean, think about it, folks. You know, I used to use the Flow Bee to cut my hair, right? Stick a shop vac on my head. And, you know, it would suck all the dandruff out of my head, all the stuff on my scalp and all the dry scalp into the shop vac and chop my hair at the same time. But nothing escapes the vacuum. But yet everything escapes the vacuum on the spinning ball, right? The water stays on the spinning ball. The gravity is so powerful that it holds the oceans on, but the mosquito can defy it, right? Oh, the air, the gases in the atmosphere, they defy the power of the vacuum. A vacuum by nature sucks everything into it, folks. How do we have air to breathe if there is a vacuum of space? It's a bunch of nonsense, all right? So they're hiding God, they're hiding all the water under the ground, and they're hiding the fact that there is no way out of here, and they're desperately still trying to build that Tower of Babel with that guy that lives in the tunnels that calls himself Elon Musk, right? The guy that looks like he never comes up for sunlight except when it's a photo op. Folks, can I tell you something? The only way off of this place is through the grave, and you better make sure you go through the door, who is Jesus Christ, the door, the one who laid it down, who showed us the way, who came to show us the way, who is the truth, who is the life. And no one comes to the Father but through him. I didn't say it. He did. I didn't walk out of a tomb. He did. I didn't conquer death. He did. And you know what? I have just been thrown into this world after God took 9 months to knit me together in my mother's womb and put 75,000 miles of circulatory system into my body. That's right. Stupid old Joe Imbriano, this little Italian paisano nut job that everybody likes to call me, right? Has 75,000 miles of circulatory system in his body. And guess what? So do you. How to get there? Oh, why don't you ask your biology teacher how 75,000 miles of circulatory system got woven into his or her body? And look at the answer the doofus will give you. They won't have one. Oh, it's a process of evolution, is it? All right. Well, okay. I'll tell you what. I'm going to go over to the Haulover Inlet in Florida, and I'm going to go to the bottom of the ocean, and I want to go pick up my 30-foot Boston Whaler with twin 500 four-strokes on the back of that thing, with all kinds of technology to get me to Bimini in a half hour. How about that? Can I go to the dark side of the moon and pick myself up a cruise ship with a crew? Come on! This stuff was created. And I might as well say that the demonic scum in the school districts that are teaching your children it's all an accident are not only sick in their cabeza, but they're criminals. Because that is impossible to even fathom that this stuff came into being all by itself. They teach you about these laws of physics and the conservation of matter and the laws of thermodynamics. And then we got this thing that's in this thing that they give us as a law of physics, right? And it's called entropy, right? And the natural state of the so-called universe is one of disorder. Well, if there's a natural tendency of things in the universe to be in disorder, then how do they get ordered and turn into a cell, which is more complex than New York City with infrastructure inside it? The cell is so complex, they oversimplified it. It's such a joke. Then they come up with all kinds of different explanations as to what it is and what it does and how it works. And that's a moving target for many years. And then it becomes a tissue, and then it becomes an organ, and then it becomes integrated into a body, and then it becomes part of something that's alive, and it knows how to reproduce. And then it miraculously reproduces by things that are microscopic. How do you get that kind of order out of disorder? Well, you don't. It comes from a creator that they're hiding, that they're lying to you about as they feed you satanic trash on the news. They feed you satanic trash in the movies. They feed you satanic trash in the library. They feed you satanic trash in the classroom. They feed you satanic trash in the music videos. They feed you satanic trash in the newspapers. They feed you satanic trash in the magazines. And they feed you satanic trash on the news and on the television and everywhere else that there's a speaker and a screen, folks. And I'm here to break through this with the sword of the Spirit as I wear the helmet of salvation and I sport the breastplate of righteousness. As I walk around with my ankles prepared with the preparation of the gospel of peace. As I defend myself against the fiery darts of the devil with the shield of faith. And you can too, because guess what? Everything I just told you about, that outfit that God gave us? That outfit, the spiritual armor he gave us, the armor of God in Ephesians 6? It's free! And it works. Works really well, because once your eyes are open, once you're born again by the Spirit of God, you can't get lied to anymore. You can see, when I became a Christian back in 1997, I could see things. I'm not talking about seeing through walls or seeing like spirits or, seeing demons or something. I'm talking about seeing things for what they were, and nobody could con me anymore. No woman, no man, no business dealing, no nothing. It was amazing. The wisdom that just got injected into my cabeza. Unbelievable. So here we go again with another fraud. They're working on us, folks. And you need to be prepared for grid down, communication disruption, and disruption in supply chain. It'll be temporary because they always plan on bringing things back, in a 2.0 version, new and improved, more controlled, more tyrannical, more difficult to be free in. Because they want to control us because they serve their father, the devil, folks. All right? All right. Now, what can we expect in the near future with respect to this Northern Light spectacle? Well, they're going to give us some neat fireworks shows, folks. And they're going to tell us how wonderful these things are, how neat they are. Go outside and look to the north. Go up on a mountain. Shut your lights off if you're out in the back, out in the forest, and go look. You'll see the lights, right? Meantime, up in Gakona, Alaska, at the Tesla antenna farm, the billion-watt antenna farm, go look it up. They say it's for ionospheric research, right? Folks, do you know what they do with these antenna farms? They bounce stuff off the roof, okay? Do you know how we have communications all over the world? They bounce stuff off the roof. Do you know this quiet zone, satellite dish thing in, I think it's the Grand Banks in North Carolina? That's just receiving all the signals that are being bounced off the ceiling, folks. There are no satellites up there, all right? Maybe there's stuff floating around in a balloon, but there's nothing orbiting this thing. All the communications are land-based, and they bounce them off the roof, folks. I mean, they can have stuff floating around up there, but it's all parabolically bounced. I mean, that's the one good thing about the algebra. Your children don't even realize what they're involved in when they go to work for these weapons companies. As these Bell helicopters come into the base over here. All black, no numbers on them, big machine guns on them. Really scary, huh? Folks, I don't want to go too long because I don't want to take too much of your time. But you know, folks, everything's a lie, and you got to wake up. They're gonna start playing games. They're gonna start cranking up the con. I think their next card is going to be alien invasion or some sort of a, solar flare nonsense. All right. So have some preparations for the lights going out and communications. Be able to communicate with your loved ones. Have a plan in place if things go down. That you make sure you got a good pair of tennis shoes in your daughter's car with a CB radio and a weapon, and or maybe even an electric scooter or something if it'll still work. I don't know. But make sure that your family can stay in touch when things go down, and know how to hunker down and be prepared to hunker down if they're stuck in a spot for a while. Just have the discussion. What are we going to do if this happens? Because it's coming. I think it is. And it may be in a couple weeks, maybe in a couple years. But I'll tell you one thing. I remember we'd go camping down in San Diego at this place called Campland. And Mission Bay High School was right there next to where we used to camp in the dirt. And I remember we'd go down there in August, and I remember hearing when I was a young man, I was probably in 6th grade, I could tell school was getting close to starting because I could hear the football team practicing and the band practicing on the football field over there. And when they have practice in the summer for football, and when they have band practice in the summer, that tells you that the fall season is very close. Things are getting close, folks. You got to stay strong, be prepared, have faith in Jesus Christ, spread the word. Don't be afraid. We win because we serve the God who has conquered death and who has prepared eternal life for us before the foundations of the earth were laid. And eye has not seen and ear has not heard the marvelous things that he has prepared for those who love him. In Jesus' name we go. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Have a great day, folks.